Screwtape is really harsh to his nephew in this letter. Let's just say that there have been some setbacks. It seems as if the Battle of Britain has begun, and Wormwood's patient has participated in his first air raid.
I sometimes wonder whether you think you have been sent into the world for your own amusement. I gather not from your miserably inadequate report, but from that of the infernal police, that the patient's behavior during the first raid has been the worst possible. He has been very frightened and thinks himself a great coward, and therefore feels no pride. But he has done everything his duty demanded, and perhaps a bit more. Against this disaster, all you can produce on the credit side is a burst of ill temper with a dog that tripped him up, some excessive cigarette smoking, and the forgetting of a prayer?
Oh, Wormwood is in big trouble. None of the diabolical hopes articulated in the last letter have come to fruition. During the air raid, the patient was very aware of his fear, so he can't feel proud of his courage, and despite his fear, he did his duty. Apparently, Wormwood included some excuses in this letter. Here's Screwtape's response.
What is the use of whining to me about your difficulties? If you are proceeding on the enemy's idea of justice and suggesting that your opportunities and intentions should be taken into account, then I am not sure that a charge of heresy does not lie against you. At any rate, you will soon find that the justice of hell is purely realistic and concerned only with results. Bring us back food or be food yourself.
It seems obvious that Wormwood was doing his best and he had good intentions. Hell isn't interested in intentions, but only results. There is no place for lofty ideals in hell.
The only constructive passage in your letter is where you say that you still expect good results from the patient's fatigue. That is well enough, but it won't fall into your hands. Fatigue can produce extreme gentleness and quiet of mind and even something like a vision. If you have often seen men led by it into anger, malice, and impatience, that is because those men have had efficient tempters. The paradoxical thing is that moderate fatigue is a better soil for peevishness than absolute exhaustion. This depends partly on physical causes, but partly on something else. It is not fatigue simply, as such, that produces the anger, but the unexpected demands on a man already tired.
Wormwood hopes to make something of the patient's fatigue, and Screwtape concedes that we can do evil things when we are very tired, but we can also get nicer when we are very tired. We are more inclined to be nasty when we are moderately tired, because peevishness requires a little energy, and fatigue in and of itself is not what upsets us.
Whatever men expect, they soon come to think they have a right to. The sense of disappointment can, with very little skill on our part, be turned into a sense of injury. It is after men have given in to the irremediable, after they have despaired of relief, and ceased to think even a half hour ahead, that the dangers of humbled and gentle weariness begin.
The devils want to turn our expectations into entitlement. And when we don't get what we feel we have a right to, we take it as injury. This makes us crazy. And then we do evil things. If we are too tired, we don't have the energy to be affronted. Playing the victim can be hard work.
To produce the best results from the patient's fatigue, therefore, you must feed him with false hopes. Put into his mind plausible reasons for believing that the air raid will not be repeated. Keep him comforting himself with the thought of how much he will enjoy his bed next night. Exaggerate the weariness by making him think it will soon be over. For men usually feel that a strain could have been endured no longer at the very moment when it is ending, or when they think it is ending. In this, as in the problem of cowardice, the thing to avoid is the total commitment.
When we are tired, we are susceptible to false hopes, including the false hope that it, whatever it might be, will soon be over. It might not be over all that soon. Heaven wants us to accept trials. Hell wants us to put a qualifier on it. I will endure this if it is no longer than so long. When we create these kinds of conditions on our putting up with our trials, we are bound to fail when they continue past our expectations. It gets so much harder.
Whatever he says, let his inner resolution be not to bear whatever comes to him, but to bear it for a reasonable period, and let the reasonable period be shorter than the trial is likely to last. It need not be much shorter. In attacks on patience, chastity, and fortitude, the fun is to make the man yield just when, had he but known it, relief was almost in sight.
And then Screwtape offers a bit of a sidebar involving the difference between how men and how women react to weariness.
I do not know whether he is likely to meet the girl under conditions of strain or not. If he does, make full use of the fact that up to a certain point, fatigue makes women talk more and men talk less. Much secret resentment, even between lovers, can be raised from this.
This difference between men and women? It must be true because I saw it on a social media feed just 2 days ago. This may be good to know to avoid unnecessary irritations in our relationships. Anyway, Screwtape moves on to discuss another potential attack.
Probably the scene he is now witnessing will not provide material for an intellectual attack on his faith. Your previous failures have put that out of your power. But there is a sort of attack on the emotions which can still be tried. It turns on making him feel, when first he sees human remains plastered on a wall, that this is what the world is really like, and that all his religion has been a fantasy. You will notice that we have got them completely fogged about the meaning of the word real. They tell each other of some great spiritual experience. All that really happened was that you heard some music in a lighted building. Here, real means the bare physical facts, separated from the other elements in the experience they actually had.
We use the word real in 2 different ways. It's another way that the devils muddle our thinking. They have separated in our minds the physical from the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual aspects of the experience, and we have called only the physical parts the real things. But a transcendent experience at a symphonic performance is not just some people moving their arms and blowing into tubes for 2 hours.
On the other hand, they will also say, it's all very well discussing that high dive as you sit here in an armchair, but wait till you get up there and see what it's really like. Here, real is being used in the opposite sense to mean not the physical facts, which they already know while discussing the matter in armchairs, but the emotional effect those facts will have on a human consciousness. Either application of the word could be defended, but our business is to keep the 2 going at once, so that the emotional value of the word real can be placed now on one side of the account and now on the other as it happens to suit us.
Screwtape gives us an on the other hand situation. In this case, instead of considering the physical things the only things that are real, it's the opposite. Now it's the felt experience that is the real thing. So how are the devils going to be using the ambiguity of the term real in situations like those in which the patient finds himself? Screwtape was talking about those occasions when the patient would see dead bodies and massive destruction.
The general rule, which we have now pretty well established among them, is that in all experiences which can make them happier or better, only the physical facts are real, while the spiritual elements are subjective. In all experiences which can discourage or corrupt them, the spiritual elements are the main reality, and to ignore them is to be an escapist.
So when the experience is a positive one, reduce the real to the physical, and when the experience is difficult or frightening, then we are to apply the term real to the emotional or spiritual. That's what the devils are trying to get us to do. Maybe we should do the opposite. Screwtape goes on.
Thus, in birth, the blood and pain are real, the rejoicing a mere subjective point of view. In death, the terror and ugliness reveal what death really means. The hatefulness of a hated person is real. In hatred, you see men as they really are. You are disillusioned. But the loveliness of a loved person is merely a subjective haze, concealing a real core of sexual appetite or economic association.
By keeping us bouncing between these 2 definitions, the demons can undermine positive spiritual growth while amplifying the negative. They want to confuse us about what is truly real and important in life and to keep us blind to spiritual reality.
Wars and poverty are really horrible. Peace and plenty are mere physical facts about which men happen to have certain sentiments. The creatures are always accusing one another of wanting to eat the cake and have it. But thanks to our laborers, they are more often in the predicament of paying for the cake and not eating it. Your patient, properly handled, will have no difficulty in regarding his emotion at the sight of human entrails as a revelation of reality, and his emotion at the sight of happy children and fair weather as mere sentiment.
The demons want to convince us that misery is a profound truth and joy is just a fleeting feeling. It's all about framing. They can make the grim real and the delightful superficial. They want us to willingly embrace a world where darkness is depth and light is illusion. What we need to remember is that all experiences are whole experiences. They all have physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual dimensions. Dead bodies and children's laughter and sunny days, they are all real. Next is letter 31, Screwtape's last letter, and it's full of surprises and incredible wisdom and encouragement. Don't miss it. Thank you, and we'll see you there.